Hey guys, welcome to another video from the Mastering React Native TurboModules series. And in this episode, we'll implement the Android side of the local storage module. For the previous videos, we've been talking about Swift and kind of expanding on this idea of implementing user defaults, going over threads, and how everything around iOS TurboModules work. But now we are shifting towards Android, and we'll implement the very same equivalent of user defaults, which is shared preferences, inside of this turbo module. So when we go over to this repo, it's called Swift TurboModules, but I think I will have to now change the name to probably TurboModules. And yeah, there is this branch for Android implementation now. I just pushed it. So if you have any issues following this tutorial, you can always jump into the repo and check it out. So just to recap what we'll be going over, we'll have 4 methods to implement. So this is the very same implementation that we did in the first video for Swift. And so we have set item, get item, remove item, and clear. And I think the names are like pretty descriptive. So yeah, now let's jump into Android Studio. And let's see. So when we expand this left side, let's actually do async over here. So you should always do it after changing the spec. So this will call Codegen and regenerate your generated files. So on the left side, make sure to select Android. So you have the same view as I have. You can have many views around here, but let's do Android. So we're on the same page. And if you expand React Native Local Storage, you in here can see native local storage spec. So let's go over there. Let's minimize this. So in here, we have our abstract class, which is the class that we'll have to implement in our turbo module. And in here, for example, we've got a React method, which exposes, like it's an annotation that tells this to expose this method to JavaScript. We've got do not strip, which prevents ProGuard from removing this method, and all sorts of things like this. But what's most important is that this is generated from the TypeScript interface here. So you've got end-to-end type safety. So now that we have this, we can jump in here. Let me actually switch to main. So we don't have this implementation already here. We can go over it from scratch. So yeah, this is how kind of the default implementation generated from React Native Builder block looks like. We've got a multiply method, but what we have to do is actually implement all the methods described in the abstract class we just saw. So let's go over and remove all of this. And in here, let's implement members. So we've got all 4 of them. And they've got some to this set item, get item, remove item, and clear. So first thing that we need to do, add shared preferences, which is an equivalent of user default for Android. And what's cool about them is that they are, as you would expect from a local storage, they persist across app restarts. They are stored as an XML file in the app's private directory. They're thread safe for reads and writes. And also, as we do it in the user default, you can give them a name. So they will be scoped based on this name. Or you can also do preference manager that get default, shared preference. And this will give you preferences that are default and they are tied to the app package. But we'll go with the scoped and name it local storage the same way we did in iOS implementation. So we've got get name, set item. So yeah, let's start with set item actually. So the way you can do it is you can retrieve the editor, shared preferences.edit, and then editor.put string. So we are operating only on strings, key value, and editor.apply. So this is one way. It's just like kind of like old way of doing things, but I want to show it so it's easier to understand what's going on. So we retrieve the editor, we call put string, and then we call apply. And all of this can be kind of like inline into shared preferences that edit. And as you can see, instead of, we can pass in a lambda like so. And we can call put string directly in here, where we'll go key value like this, and we can remove all this. So this edit extension actually calls apply for us. So we don't need to remember about this, because if we would just retrieve the editor and do not call apply, this wouldn't be applied to these short preferences. So this is a nice shortcut we can use to kind of get from 3 lines to just 1. So yeah, let's move to get item. So we need to return short preferences that get string. And let's just pass in a key. And we need to pass in the default value, which for our case will be null, because this is an optional here. And let's implement short preferences of that remove. So we can do again edit, pass in the lambda, and call remove on the key. This is pretty much the same pattern. And in here for clear, we can do that edit, and again pass in the lambda and do clear, which just clears out everything. So yeah, this now looks good. So all of this like KTX extensions that we've been using here, they are asynchronous and non-blocking. You could also do synchronous saves to short preferences by calling that commit. But we won't get into this like details of the implementation of the short preferences. So for the sake of keeping this video focused on TurboModules and actually how to interface with them, let's leave it like this, where it's asynchronous and non-blocking, which is the way you mostly want things to run. So let's now run this on the simulator. I'm not touching the debugger, so we'll put some breakpoints and see the threads and how our app is calling those methods. So let's do press to start greeting. So yeah, this is now the breakpoint we are on. And as you can see in here, the thread is mqt_v_js, which is the JavaScript thread. So the same way as we had in iOS when we call get, like when we called this method, get item, which is synchronous and it returns just a string, not a promise. It gets called on the JavaScript thread. So be careful not to do any long-running operations in here. If you want to do some long-running operations in the get item, you should for sure do a promise-based approach where you then resolve the promise. But in here, we just retrieve the item synchronously from the short preferences, and we just return it. And then, as you can see in set item, it's different in here because it's called on the mqt_v_native, which is the native thread which is the thread created by React Native for executing TurboModules. So if you watched the previous video where I talked about Swift and how the threading model is working there, it's pretty similar. So React Native is also creating a thread for executing TurboModules. And this is where this method is called. You could obviously expand on this, jump on your own threads as we did in the video about Swift. But yeah, let's keep it simple for this one. And yeah, and we got hello expo from the alert. So that's a success. And yeah, and I think that will be all for this video. So key takeaways, I would say, are that shared preferences is the it's the Android equivalent of iOS user defaults. You can use the edit extension to make your shared preferences calls simpler and nicer and more concise and easier to read. The generated spec is located here. It's generated from the TypeScript interface. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching this video. Consider commenting below, leaving a like, and subscribing to Callstack YouTube channel. Yeah, thank you. See you.